I'm Rosemary Cescolini. I am the host of the O Podcast, short for Only Women Entrepreneurs. It's an initiative designed to empower young women to explore careers in construction, manufacturing, and entrepreneurship. Here we'll listen to inspiring success stories, receive valuable insights from women who have become their own boss, and pave the way for generations of female entrepreneurs. Let's shatter stereotypes and build a more inclusive future together. In today's episode on the Only Women Entrepreneurs podcast, we dive into the thrilling world of rope access. I was originally scheduled to speak with Alia Koster, but I have a wonderful surprise. I have another guest who's going to join us, and her name is Shivvon, and who also is in rope access. And we'll discuss a little bit of Shivvon's background in a moment. So going back to Alia, she's a seasoned professional with 14 years of experience in industrial rope access, an essential service that caters to industries like construction, maintenance, and energy. Industrial rope access workers like Alia and Shivvon usually specialize techniques to access difficult-to-reach areas at great heights, ensuring the safety of structures while performing tasks such as inspections, repairs, and installations. Join us as we unravel Alia's and Shivvon's journeys from their entry into the industry to their triumphs as of, I know that Alia is self-employed rope access technician. I'm going to have to ask that about Shivvon, all while navigating the challenges of being women in a field that defies heights and stereotypes. Hello, ladies, and welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
So what part of the world are you ladies joining us from?
We're both in Fort McMurray right now. In Alberta.
In Alberta. That's great. So what, for like people like me, we have no clue what a rope access technician does and what it is. So would one of you take the time to explain to our audience the definition and what some of the industries that you serve?
I know me. Rope access essentially is accessing inaccessible places. Access the inaccessible, you know? You look up, there's something very high up on the side of a building, on the side of a mountain, on the side of a vessel, grain terminals, all of that kind of stuff. We go up to the top, anchor ourselves, and then rappel, essentially, like you do in caving or in climbing, down to the spot where we need to work. We do the work, and then we provide a service that scaffolding can't reach, you know?
Okay. That's a very valuable service for sure. And so you're at Fort McMurray at the moment. So what type of industry are you providing services for?
Well, I work as a level 3, so I'm a supervisor.
Yes.
And I work with pipe fitters, welders, insulators, electricians,
every trade,
inspectors. Yeah, anything in the oil fields. So anyone that would have a trade in the oil fields could get a rope ticket and then do their trade on ropes.
Okay. And Shivvon, what's your role there?
I'm a mechanical insulator, so I work with vessels, pipes, anything that would require insulation. That's my job.
Okay, sounds amazing. And so let's take one person at a time. So what are exactly your qualifications? We'll start with Shivvon. You had mentioned that you're rope access level 1.
Yeah.
So what does that really mean? And what does it allow you to do in terms of like your abilities? Are there restrictions on some jobs that you can't do? And what are some of the jobs you can do?
So there's a lot of restrictions for me because I'm just an entry level. However, I am capable of doing rigging and de-rigging with the supervision of the level 3, which would be Alia.
Right.
And also I am capable and trusted enough, hopefully, to get on the ropes and then complete my job.
Right. And how long, how much training do you need to get to a higher level?
2.5 to 3 years.
Right.
I need hours, and then also I have to do a full week of training. Do a full week of training, then we do the exam and the assessment, and then I go forward if I pass.
Okay. So, rope access has 3 levels. There's level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is mostly entry level, but a lot of people will stay as level 1 for forever, you know, because you don't need anything more than a level 1 to be on ropes.
Okay.
Level 2, usually you are trusted with more of the rigging, more of the life on lines. If I need somebody else across from me in order to do the other side of the rigging, I would choose the level 2 that I have on my crew. And then you also are trained in some rescues to get someone off the ropes, because that's all on us as well. If someone goes down on ropes, we are in charge ourselves of getting them off. We don't wait for the fire department or anything.
Wow.
And then as a level 3, I'm 100% in charge of rescue. So most of my job, besides running the job, is in case of rescue, how do I get these people out the most efficiently?
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility that you have on your shoulders, Alia, because life and death situations probably happen. Hopefully not on a regular basis.
In the oil fields, all the time.
All the time.
In the oil field, it's all the time, like anything can explode at any point in the oil field.
So everybody basically under you, you're responsible for.
Yes, and that's a legal responsibility. If something happens on my work site and I am the level 3, I will be the one that goes to jail.
Okay. So with that being said, that's really a lot to consider.
Yeah, tell me about it. I waited a long time to be a level 3.
Yeah. You know what? That explains why if you're at level 1, now maybe I'm going to stay here and let other people creep up the ladder, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that is really eye-opening. So how many people do you usually supervise on a job site, Alia?
Between 3 and 10.
3 and 10 individuals.
I'm not allowed to supervise more than 10 people on ropes at a time.
Okay.
According to IRATA itself. But our crews are usually smaller. Usually we're 3 people, 4 people.
Right. And let's go back to Shivvon here. I'm really interested in how you decided to enter rope access work. What gave you the idea?
Well, initially I was a ground insulator, and so you only make a certain amount of money, and that there's a cap there. If I'm being completely honest, so I know
it's about the money.
It's all about the money, ladies.
The money,
all about the money.
You will have a premium on top of your wage, your original wage. Also, I find rope access is kind of similar to mountain climbing, which adds a little thrill to it. So it makes the job more fun and interesting. Right. And so with that, that was an easy decision for me.
Okay.
I think in rope access too, we always have a lot, we have smaller work areas because we can only access so much from one set of ropes. So we have a lot, we'll go do a job and we'll be finished it the same day or within 2 days. So you end up, it's always something new, you're always working on a different job.
Time is efficient.
Wow. Yeah.
It's fantastic. I guess you never get bored of a job, right? Because you're constantly moving about, right?
Yeah,
it's a complete thrill.
That's great. So, Alia, what led you into becoming a rope access technician?
Then this a long time ago. Well, I did, my schooling was in dance,
right?
In ballet, and when I finished, partway through my schooling, I started taking calls, backstage calls, designing lighting for different dance shows, sound, and a little bit of rigging, hanging the lights up in the air, making sure that everything is safe up in the air. So I did that for a while. And then one day someone asked me if I had a harness so I could run a spotlight for a concert. And I said, of course I have a harness. And then I left that job and went and bought a harness and then came back for the spotlight call later with my brand new harness.
Oh, wow.
And since then, I've kind of just moved forward with that. So I was rigging only for a long time, got some rigging certificates for entertainment. And then I joined the circus. I joined a touring show.
Oh my goodness.
And I became a tent technician for the circus, setting up and tearing down the tents and then the bleachers, and then eventually acrobatic rigging. So flying the humans that are in the show.
But you yourself didn't perform as an acrobat?
No, I was never a performer.
Okay.
But perhaps we worked on ropes during the circus years.
Yeah.
I was there for 10 years. We worked on ropes quite often.
Yes.
And then when we went to Australia, they asked us to have certification to work on ropes. So that's when I got my first rope ticket.
Right. And I'm gathering what you ladies are telling me. Someone who's afraid of heights, not recommended. But for me,
probably shouldn't. But there is a surprising amount of rope technicians that are afraid of heights.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. Oh wow, that is cool. And so how would they handle that? That's a big challenge.
You have to really learn to trust the gear.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to trust the system that you build for yourself, and you have to trust your level 3 that built that system.
Yeah.
Okay, so for novice individuals like myself, what type of gear are you usually working with, and that you have to have all this trust in?
We have, I mean, a basic rope system is a
Right.
set of ropes. So you have two rope system all the time.
Okay.
So one rope is your main line, and your main line will go either to a system to crawl up the rope with tooth devices or a system to rappel down the rope with a cam device. There's lots of different devices out there that do it.
Okay.
At the top, when you hang the ropes, you only tie approved knots. So we have knots that are rated for a 10-to-1 for each of our body weights, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
5 or 10-to-1. You set it on anchors that you can guarantee are 5 or 10-to-1 to the person that is going to be doing the work.
Oh, I see.
That's the simplest breakdown, I think.
Okay. That's really that's great to know. And do you have to supply your own equipment, or is it provided by?
It depends.
It depends.
It depends. If you are an employee of the company, usually the company provides it because they
Right.
have to, in case of an audit
Okay.
from IRADA itself. So IRADA is the name of the certification you need to work on ropes.
I see.
And I would say with an IRADA ticket, an IRADA certified company, all of the gear that they provide has to be audited every 6 months.
Okay.
So they usually provide the gear because bringing your own gear would be very hard to audit that gear.
I see. Okay.
I think I'm the only rope tech I know with my own gear, and I keep a running audit of my own gear registered under my company. So technically I could be allowed to bring my own gear to a site because I can provide the paperwork, but a lot of people don't do the work to do the paperwork.
Can you mention or describe a memorable experience? In how many years have you been a rope access technician?
Almost 3 years.
3 years. So does something pop in your mind that, something memorable, something fun, something that, that you'll pass on to future generations?
Don't be afraid to get in there and just get on ropes. Don't be afraid to go over an edge with your equipment.
Right.
Check everything and inspect everything before going to any height.
Okay.
But have fun because it's a very fun gig. Like, regardless of what trade you're in, being on ropes is a blast. It's exhilarating, it's exciting, and
no one else gets to do it.
Yeah. And enjoy the view.
Sounds amazing.
Because there's always a view.
There's always a view, yeah.
Height, so enjoy the view, but also do the work.
Okay. So, now you guys are really giving me a good pitch. I might consider it. Are you ever too old to
No.
No, we have rope techs everywhere from 18 to 68.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so
on our crew right now. Yeah.
I give it a thought. Okay. And how about you, Alia? Anything memorable that sticks out in your 14-year career?
Well, many things. I'm going to say on Shivvon's point, though, I would say don't be afraid to do the things, but I also would say don't trust your level 3 blindly. Check your own gear, check your own situations.
Yeah.
If you don't feel good about it, ask for more information.
Right.
But beyond that, I'm actually just going to tell a funny story.
Sure.
So this one time I was working and it was like a sub ceiling and the outside of the building was all glass. So it was like 60 degrees up there, because it's just like sun was blasting in the glass. It was like a greenhouse in between like the ceiling and the sub ceiling. And I was climbing in between the two of them. And I was climbing along and there was this little hole and it was about this big. And I was like, I could fit through that hole.
Oh, God.
I'm
That's
sure
really
I could fit
tiny.
through that hole. Well, the other option was to climb all the way, like probably 30 feet out of the way and then back. And that's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm going to fit through that hole. So I get myself all ready. I took everything off my harness I could, except for like the basics, put it all through the hole first, hung it on the other side, and then went to go head first through the hole. I had to put my hands in front of me. So I went head first through the hole and I got stuck.
I saw that coming.
And all I could think about as I was halfway through this hole with my hips stuck around the waist belt was, man, if someone has to rescue me from this situation, I'm never going to live this down. I'm never going to live this down.
So how did you manage to get out? Did you wiggle your way through?
I wiggled a lot, but I couldn't go back. I could only go forward.
Yeah, and that's tough because all you needed was a male rope access technician to come by and do the rescue, and for sure you wouldn't have lived that down.
I never would have lived it down.
Yeah,
I managed to get
feel for
myself
you.
out while all my coworkers were around me, looking at me, laughing at me. They're like, "You look like a fish." I do look like a fish. As I was wiggling my way through the hole.
Well, the good news, you made it out, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And on your own.
Determination.
That is funny. I'm really glad that you shared that. So
it was a very memorable day.
Oh, for sure. Like that's going to go down in the history books because we're going to be broadcasting it on the podcast, and a lot of people are going to chuckle to that one for sure.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned,
I guess anything can happen, you know, when you're on ropes.
Yeah.
Because you're in so many weird situations where no one ever goes.
Right.
Like, so the weirdest things happen. You're like, how did this happen? How am I in this situation right now? Because it just, it's wild because nobody ever does it.
Well, yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's something being done the first time, and then you know what? You find out, and you got to learn from experience, basically, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're on a job maybe a day or 2 days. Does your job require a lot of traveling?
No. I mean, we work all on the base plant on one site in Fort McMurray.
Right. And
so we always come, sometimes we go to a second site, but most of the time we're on this one work site. Mm-hmm. And that's just like, that's this job, right?
Yeah. Okay. On this particular job.
Yeah.
So what does a typical work day look for either of you? Like what time do you start? What time do you finish? And just describe some of the duties that you're expected to do in that day or two.
Well, we typically start at 7 a.m. We would have a toolbox meeting, which is our morning meetings.
Right.
We kind of go over safety, and then we also assign, our supervisor kind of delegates the jobs and assigns our work to us. And then afterwards, we go to whichever main office, which is the permit office.
Right.
We pull permit, and then we go inspect the job and assess for any safety hazards,
right,
to make sure it's safe before we commence the job. And then we kind of write down a flaha, which is going over everything with the crew to make sure that hazard assessment, so that we're all aware of all the hazards potentially.
And make a rescue plan.
Yes, and then make the rescue plan. The level 3 usually makes the rescue plan and goes over it with the crew so that we have an understanding. And then as we have the gear and everything required for the job, then we move forward with commencing the job.
Yeah. Well, and like all of that process probably takes 2 to 3 hours by the time we have everything ready. And then we'll go rig, go set the ropes, and then go and do the job. We do 12-hour days out here.
Yeah.
12-hour days. Wow.
So we work 7 to 7 every day.
And then of course you stop for your lunch, your breaks, and
yes.
Yeah. We usually take 2 breaks a day.
Yes, half hour.
But it depends on the job, because there's some jobs that are time sensitive. So then we wouldn't take a break. We would just finish our day earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to have the ability to work through if necessary, because once you get into the spot, you don't necessarily want to get back to that spot.
Agreed.
It's a one-shot deal, you know?
So working in the western part of Canada, you guys have to face extreme temperatures. So how do you deal with that?
On both sides. I would say on both sides of the equation, we deal with extreme temperatures. Because like in the summertime, we can get up to plus 40.
Or below
and then
40.
some of the plants would add an extra 20, 30 degrees to that. So we're working in quite a bit of heat a lot of the time. And then in the winter, we would go down to minus 40.
So how do you prepare yourself, like physically, mentally, those are incredible challenges that, you know, could break a person, you know, if it's too cold, I'm not doing that. Or if it's too hot. Same thing.
It is something we talk about fairly often. So like in my paperwork and when I'm briefing my crew on what we're going to be doing for the day, I do mention the weather. This is what we're expecting for today. We're going to be outside. It might be pouring rain the whole time. That means the roof is probably going to be slippery, or that means the steps will be slippery, or it's going to be really hot today. We're going to make sure we grab a case of water. We're going to take breaks every 15 minutes. You know, we're only ever going to be on ropes for 15 minutes, take a break for 20, go back up for 15. You just manage it as you can. And then in the cold, it would be the same. You take warm up breaks whenever you need, right?
Right.
I don't want someone to be on ropes and get so cold that they can't manage their gear, because that means I have to rescue. And that's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't want to have to do the rescue. And as the level 3, I do there and I stand there and I watch them work. And usually if I'm really, really cold, when I start to get really frozen, that's when I call them down.
Take that break.
Okay.
Because I'm like, well, if I'm going to stand here and I'm going to be capable of a rescue, I need to warm up. So we all need to go for a break.
Makes sense. Sure.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned rescue several times, and if someone is in
I would
trouble,
say it's most of my job.
It's your job.
Rescue is most of my job.
Have you had that experience of in that situation when you had to rescue someone?
Yes.
Would you mind sharing that and what was involved?
Well, I've had to do it twice, but I actually work outside of, like, twice in rope access while working on a job site.
Okay.
But I actually work for search and rescue outside of work, like volunteer for them.
So
I do a lot of like long line type rescuing, high angle rescue.
Sounds more dangerous.
Out in the woods, all of that kind of stuff. So that's all part of my skill set, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the ones that I have done with rope access, one was a brand new rope tech. I think they got their ticket, passed the course on the Saturday, and they came into work the Monday. It was their first time ever really in a working situation on ropes.
Okay.
We were on a building. We were trying to clean an art installation. We were about 45 stories above the ground.
Wow.
So it's quite high.
Yes.
But I sent him over the edge and I went over after him. So I got him over, went over after him on another set of ropes, and I was working beside him and he just froze.
Oh no.
He couldn't move.
Oh dear.
Like he just had full panic set in. His heart was pounding. He was looking really pale. You know, his lips had gone white. Like he was scared.
So you saw the signs. Can they communicate that to you, or is
I
it
asked him, and he said, "I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay." And then at some point, it was just so obvious he wasn't okay, despite that he was saying he was okay. That I was like, "All right, man, we're gonna work through this together." So it wasn't a full rescue, that one, because he was still conscious. He was still okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was just terrified.
Right.
So I assisted him down the ropes.
Okay.
The second time, it was very cold, and my coworker had hit his head.
So you had
was
an
quite
injury.
dazed. Yeah. And was not, and like had blood and stuff, you know, he had cut open his forehead.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And was not doing so well. His hands were really cold. He had taken his gloves off to deal with something, and now his hands were even more cold. They were starting to go blue on the tips, super white, and then blue on the tips. And I was like, "Okay, we're dealing with like almost hypothermia here with the shock, you know?"
Yeah.
So in that situation, I did a full rescue. So I rappelled down to him, picked him off of his ropes, brought him onto my ropes, and then lowered down with him, and then stretchered him to the truck, got him in the truck, warmed him up a bunch, and then took him to first aid. That was a work site, though. It was a very remote work site, and I was the first aid on site, as well as the rescue tech.
You know, that's incredible, and that is such a brave story. Like I have to say, hats off to both of you, because it's important work that you do, and just being out there on the field and being able to respond to situations as they arise and be quick on your feet. It's just incredible just listening to it, and it makes me happy to see that, you know, it's breaking stereotypes. Oh, well, women can't do these things, but you know what? You're living proof that you are doing this, and I believe you're rescuing.
And we're quite good at it.
Yeah.
And we're quite good at it.
and that's not a bad thing to boast about it. You know, that's fantastic. So, in both your opinions, do you think rope access technician should be added as a possible career to be added in the school curriculum?
Yes,
absolutely.
And the younger you get into it, the more time you have to get good at it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really, I think, a very positive and fulfilling skills that you end up in, right? You're learning things. The biggest thing that I think for it is every crew that I have, they have to trust me, which means that I have to be trustworthy.
Of course.
Which automatically makes me a better person, right?
Yes.
Because I have to walk into every situation expecting the trust of my coworkers.
That's right.
Which means we all have very good, lasting relationships as well, right? It's a small community. There's not a lot of rope techs in the world. When I got my level 3, I was one of 100 women rope techs in the world.
Wow. That is a really small niche market.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear. But so if I was in charge of education and I was writing the curriculum, what would be some of the things that I could incorporate for young people to perhaps pursue this career, and how could I prepare them? Like, say,
I
do we
would
start in
say
elementary school or high school? You
I
said
would
start
start
at a
in
young
like
age.
middle school
Middle
age,
school, yeah.
12, 13, I would say, because
And
then they have kind of an idea of what kind of things they like. If someone
right,
is already thinking of going in the trades, mentioning that rope access is a possibility after you have a trade certificate is really good.
hmm
Because all it does is it takes you, the pipe fitter that has his trade, that is a journeyman, and it just puts him into a more niche market.
exactly. And there's a demand, I'm assuming.
There is
Yeah,
always.
there's demand.
We
There's
always need more techs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so one of the things as I'm interviewing various women in unique industries. That's one thing we don't have in school. It's always,
Mm.
university driven, and then, well, if you can't make a university, then what are you going to do? We just don't have options, and it's so important that we network and connect with the youth, letting them know, hey,
Yeah.
I've got two wonderful women here doing a terrific job. Why don't you consider that? And I think, yeah, I agree that the schools need to start reaching out to the private sector and entrepreneurs so that we can better serve the youth and creating programs that will actually help the job market. Because right now there's shortages everywhere.
Well, I mean, if you don't see someone that looks like you doing the thing, then you don't think that you can do the thing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And we do need a lot more female role models. Just finding that
the youths.
yes, we need to get out there and we need to show them what we can do. And just having you here, it's just amazing and incredible. And I know it's going to inspire a lot of people. So, as women in a predominantly male industry, what are some of the obstacles you had to face through the years, and how'd you manage them? So, who wants to take a shot at that?
I have a good funny story about this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Some of the challenges are definitely mental, because the guys would challenge us emotionally, mentally, and just to see your skill set and how confident you are in what you're doing.
Right.
And
I would be challenged a lot to see if I was confident in what I know and how to do what I'm trying to do in terms of my trade.
Well, and I feel as women too, like we aren't given the amount of grace that men are to make mistakes.
No.
So if I make a mistake as a woman in the field, I will likely get fired over it. A man makes the same mistake I made and they'll, slap on the wrist. Don't do that again, The
expectation is higher.
Much higher. The perfection is required in order to prove that you are worthy or something. I don't know. It's kind of backwards.
Yeah.
It is getting better though.
That's
since I started.
Yeah.
When I started a long time ago,
it's gotten a lot
it was
better.
Shit. It was terrible.
At the very beginning, it was horrendous.
Oh, it was awful.
Now it's a 21st century.
Now I feel like, for the most part, our crew members, they take us seriously. They respect our opinions.
We've come a long way.
I would say especially on this crew, but there are some crews I've been on that it hasn't been that way, but definitely on this crew, we are quite.
Base Plan's a pretty good site, and Tacked in here is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. So, what's your funny story?
Yeah, I went to compete with a high angle rescue team that was all women in Belgium last year. And we were in Belgium and there was a guy that asked to interview us for the radio station, the local radio station, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, this would be great. And the first question he asked me as he's there, he goes, "Do your husbands give you permission to come and do this?"
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure my mouth was just wide open and I stared at him for a good minute of like, I don't even know how to answer that.
That was complete intention, man.
I don't even know how to answer that.
Wow.
I don't even know if any of us have husbands.
That's shocking for many reasons, but the biggest reason is I still can't believe that kind of stereotypes out there, and we got a lot of work to do.
It's still very real. Honestly, every day I hear a little bit about it. Every day I pull a permit. Every day I talk to the coordinators. I always get, "Do you go up on ropes too?" Well, yes.
Lead. Yeah.
I didn't expect that. Or if I'm the lead on a job, they will come in to talk to the lead on the job and directly go to my coworker who is male.
Yeah,
and start asking him questions. And the guy is there and he's trying to answer the question. And then finally he's like, "I'm not in charge," and points at me. And then the guy usually doesn't come talk to me. He usually looks at me, goes, and then walks away. And then calls my boss to ask the question that he could have just asked me.
So the challenges are still there.
So it's still
for
prevalent.
Sure. Yeah.
Or they'll tell a really awful joke. That happens a lot, like a really sexist joke.
Yeah.
And usually when that kind of thing happens, I laugh or I half laugh, and then I'm like, but actually I don't get it. Can you explain it to me? And that usually shuts it down pretty quick.
Make them super uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because then
that's a
they have
great
to try to
response.
explain why it's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
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 So,
So
We get the party uncomfortable.
but it is like
That's-
consistent. It's an everyday thing.
yeah, and I think that's just industry wide because my background, I was working 30 years in woodworking, and I learned how to make handcrafted wood doors. Okay,
Mhm.
and
That's cool.
yes, thank you. And the first thing I realized was, okay, I was the only woman working there, and so you're in production with a bunch of guys, and I didn't know a clue. I was lucky that I had a very good mentor, and taught me the wood types, how to process wood, and eventually make products. And with 30 years, I actually created door products, and then I moved into sales.
Amazing.
But the thing that the respect I really got, and you both hit it on the nail on the head, is when you have undeniable knowledge and skill, I don't care who you're dealing with, you can shut them down so fast.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the
100%.
key. That's the key. You got to know your stuff, hands down.
Well,
right?
and sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes the best thing to do in that situation is not to challenge him on his opinion. Sometimes the best thing to do is to say, okay, and walk away.
Yeah, that's a great approach as well.
Pick and choose your battles. Pick and choose
Yeah.
your battles.
Precisely.
Which hills do you actually want to die on, you know?
Yeah.
This one I can brush off.
Oh, well, that's pretty funny. So over the, Shivvon 3 years and Alia 14, have you started seeing the gender dynamics actually change in your industry?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
I was
have a
the
lot
only
more
girl
women
for
now.
years. I was the only woman for years on any site. And I think in the last
Same,
5
sadly.
years, I would say, probably.
There's a
The
lot
last
more
5 years has
women.
been bigger.
A lot
And
more
like
women.
now-
this side alone.
Yeah, like we're here on
It's
the
great
site.
to
We
see.
probably have 150 guys
Mhm.
total that we hire on this site. And I would
Mhm.
say 50 of us are women, maybe
It's really nice.
40 or 50 of
Wow.
us. So we're almost a
Really
third.
nice to
That's
see.
that's really encouraging because
Yeah.
the biggest challenge is like manufacturing, what 26% are women, and construction's only 5%. So if you're telling me
Yeah.
you got about 30%, that's incredible.
I mean, I'm saying like
in your
on this site,
on your
it is.
site,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
good. So maybe I have
It
to talk
is.
to other ladies in the same industry and see what their
But
experience.
I have seen a huge uplift in it
Oh, yeah,
regardless. Like I know
completely.
quite a few women rope
On
access
different
techs
sites.
now on
Right,
all
right.
sites. And it's rare now that I would be the only girl on the job, although
Yeah.
I'm usually the only woman supervisor.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. So, what impact, if any, do you think being a woman has on the way you approach challenges in your work?
I think we communicate better
We pay attention to detail.
and details. Yeah.
And that's
And
very
we can find
important.
things.
Yeah.
We can find things
Yeah.
no matter what.
We take our time.
If I send
No
Shivvon to go
rush.
get something, she's going to come back with the thing I asked her to get. If I send
Yeah.
Ryan to go find something, he's going to come back. I don't know where to find it.
We take our time for sure. And
Yeah.
pre-planning.
Yeah. And the planning,
efficiently,
yeah,
yeah.
the jobs end up getting done, I find, with women in charge a lot more efficiently
Right.
because they have
Attention to detail.
attention to detail. They think about the
They
plan.
have
They think about
communication.
who's going to be where.
Mm.
Most of the women I know will be, on a site. A lot of the guys don't go through the rescue plan with their crew.
Sure.
They'll just be like, hey, read the rescue plan, sign it.
Very thorough.
But
Yeah.
I know that most women I know, and I do for sure, always go through the rescue plan. Hey, in this situation, this is how I'm going to get you out. This is what I will need you to do.
Because it's mentorship.
Yeah.
So, you
Right.
got to hear that the rest of the
Well,
crew
and when it goes down,
understands.
accidents happen fast and they're
Yeah.
really serious really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't
Yeah.
want someone to be confused about what they're supposed to be doing when you only have
Yeah.
10 minutes to
Absolutely.
get the person out, you know?
Yeah.
You need to be thinking quickly on your feet, right?
Yeah.
So, Shivvon, you mentioned mentorship. Did you have any mentors or role models that have affected your career?
Alia.
Yours truly, right?
Yeah. She's a fantastic.
What do you
level
admire in
3.
her?
She's very patient.
You make me blush.
She's very put her on the spot. She's very patient. And she has effective communication when it comes to explaining things and making sure you understand and like having that dialogue so that, I can repeat what's going on. What else? And you're very thorough with a lot of the jobs, which I appreciate.
Sure.
She also asked me questions so I can go and learn for myself and not just like do whatever she tells me to do. I'm actually getting my hands dirty myself and seeking out areas or jobs myself. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that she helps me with my learning.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
That's good. Oh, that was sweet. That was
She
sweet.
put on the spot like that.
A little bit.
Yeah. Same question for you, Alia.
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of mentors over the years. Often, like I would say one of my biggest ones, he's a level 3 and an assessor.
Mhm.
One of my favorite people to work with. And his, I guess his grounding, his moral principles come back to, I want everyone to succeed. It's not just about my success. So he started a company, he's running a training center, and everybody he has coming through that, he treats them as family and he pushes them towards success rather than failure.
Right.
So when I went in to reassess my level 2 again, it would have been my third reassessment because I was like, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to be a level 3. He was the one that changed it on me. He was like, no, Alia, he paid for half of my reassessment and then put me in for level 3.
Fantastic.
Saying, he believed in you, man.
Well, he's like, you're not getting paid enough for what you do. He's like, your skill set is a level 3 skill set and you're accepting $10 less in pay every hour for no good reason.
Right. That's great. We wish we had more mentors like that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he didn't have to pay for it, but I did appreciate that he pushed me for it.
Yeah.
Because he's right. I am better as a level 3.
Without his
yes,
mentorship,
I am a good person to go and do the work.
Yeah.
But as a level 3, I'm bringing a lot of value to every work site I'm on.
Okay.
I think she's probably going to leave now.
All right. Thank you so much, Shivvon, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate your insights, and we'll send some information when the episode drops. Okay. And good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
Lovely meeting you, and take care.
Likewise. All the best.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. So going back to you, can you describe the differences of between an employee and being self-employed in this field?
As an employee, usually I will get, besides benefits and RSP and all of that, like besides the financial differences, as an employee, I guess I am now underneath a higher level of command. As a self-employed rope tech, I am the highest level of command because I'm coming in to do a specific job.
And how did you market your services and find clients as self-employed rope access technician and supervisor?
My reputation preceded me.
Right.
So I worked for many years on the circus. I had lots of friends there. When I moved back to Canada after touring for 10 years, I moved to Vancouver. And when I moved to Vancouver, I got myself a full-time rope access job.
Right.
Just for the summer, like for one season, just to get myself in. But as soon as I was in, once people work with me once, they want to work with me again.
Right.
So in that season, I worked with a bunch of people. They all want to work with me again. Now I have a client base.
Right.
And they know, like, my skill set is, because I did so much acrobatic rigging and like stunt rigging and all of that, they will often send me, like, my niche, I guess, would be to go and do a complicated rigging situation, something that no one else has figured out. There's no anchors on this building. How are we going to clean it? There doesn't seem to be any access to this situation. How are we going to do it? Right. And I'm really good at figuring that out.
So one thing I noticed is you two ladies look physically strong. So if I'm a young woman, petite in frame, would I be able to endure the physical demands of this type?
Yeah.
And
my choice to be stronger is more to do with the rescue services and being able to lift a stretcher than it has to do with my everyday job.
Okay.
My everyday job is not, I mean, you need to have a basic level of fitness, but I don't think it's not excessive, you know?
Okay. That's good to know, because a lot of young ladies, they might get discouraged and say, well, you got to be physically built and I wouldn't be able to do it because maybe I'm just 80 pounds and very light,
Yeah.
but
You
anybody
have to be
could.
able to, if you can climb a ladder,
Yep.
you can climb a rope.
Perfect. That sounds easy enough. So what personal traits apart from your technical abilities are crucial to being a rope access technician?
I mean, I think having a good awareness of where your body is in space makes a big difference, but I wouldn't say it's crucial. It just makes everything a lot easier.
Okay.
Other than that, I would just say good time management. There's a lot of freelance in rope access. There's a lot
Right.
of downtime, but you have to be ready to go when it's time to go.
Okay. And
So
from a business side, how do you manage your financial and administrative aspects of your business?
I got an accountant.
So that's smart.
No,
Outsourcing is good.
when I'm subcontracting, I invoice for everything.
Right.
And when I invoice, I had to register as a small business, get a GST number, and then bill everything to my GST number, aka my business,
Yes. Yes.
take the contract, invoice for it, and then I charge 7% in taxes that I just
Right.
put aside. And then at the end of the year, when I do my taxes, I just pay the overhead.
You're working 12 hours a day, and I'm pretty sure that you're physically exhausted.
Well, I'm an employee with this company.
Right.
And as an employee, I work 12 hours a day for 2 weeks at a time.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I
So
have 2 weeks off.
you have some break, and
Yeah.
that way that'll allow
Yeah.
you to do your administrative duties.
Yeah. I think the work-life balance is really important.
Okay.
If I'm going to work for 2 weeks straight, I need a full 2 weeks off
Right.
to not to recover, but just to like have a life
And
of
that's
any
important.
kind.
Mentally and physically, that is important to one's
Yeah.
health. What advice would you give to someone considering making that leap from employee to self-employed?
Before losing your employee job, the job where you get paid and they take the taxes for you, make sure that everything is set ahead of time.
Right.
Make sure you already have your GST number. Make sure your first contract is already booked. Make sure you've already agreed on what you think you're worth,
Right.
what you're going to charge per hour, what's going to be your day rate, what would you charge for travel, I feel like if all of that is done beforehand, when you
Right.
actually go do the contract as self-employed, you're going
Yes.
to be a lot less stressed. Because
Okay.
I think the most common mistake I see is people undercharging for their services.
That's very important that
Because our
you know your
jobs
value.
are relatively easy. Like it's not a hard job by any means,
Right.
but there's a certain level of skill to it,
Yeah.
And if you can go and do the job, get it done quickly, but then now if I say I'm going to work for a day rate,
Mm-hmm.
and then I come in and I only work 2 hours, I'm still going to ask for my day rate
That
because
makes
you
sense.
couldn't have gotten yourself there in order to paint that thing,
That's right. Very much so.
But I've had to fight for that a few times.
So, looking back on your journey, what's the most important lesson you've learned as a self-employed woman in a male-dominated industry?
There's so many good lessons. I think having full confidence in my abilities and what I'm worth
Right.
has made a massive difference to what I'm capable of,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if I walk into a situation with confidence saying I'm worth this and the guy questions it, all he has to do is see me do my job.
Right.
And then he doesn't question it anymore,
The proof is just seeing what you can accomplish, and that's a good reputation to have.
Yeah. And how many
Absolutely.
calls I get, for more work.
That's very good. In
Yeah.
terms of job security, do you feel that you'll always have a job, or are you going to suffer? Like if there's an economic slowdown, do you think you're going to be unemployed, or is it kind of like a
Well, I
job that's
wasn't
pretty
during
secure?
COVID. I was still employed during COVID. And if I was still employed during COVID, I feel like I'd probably be employed through almost everything.
Yeah, you were probably deemed an essential service, like I
Yeah,
was. Like we really
exactly.
had to crack up our production. We were working 7 days a week and 16 hours a day. So we felt very confident in it too. So that's good to hear that it's a promising career. It sounds like that's a lot of fun, and it's rewarding as well.
Yeah. I think another big thing to think about though, when it comes to rope access, honesty is really respected.
Right.
And
as is everywhere else,
every
right?
crew I've ever been on. I mean, I know in every career, but I would say almost more than others, because you're trusting someone with your life.
Exactly. Like if you're just working in an office, you know what?
Like I ask my
It's
crew
totally
every
different.
day, you know, did you have a good night? How you feeling today? Have you eaten breakfast? Did you have your coffee? Have you pooped yet? You know, like all of these things before we go out into the field.
Yes.
Do you
That's so
have issues
important.
at home? You know, I have a rule that we can talk about all of your issues with your wife, with your children, with your best friends, whatever, in the truck. But when we
Right.
leave this truck, I don't want to hear about it, because I need you to be focused on our job, because we have a low risk job. Everything is
Okay.
very redundant, but
Right.
it's really high consequence.
Right.
If you
Okay.
screw it up, you're going to die. You know, so it's
Yeah.
the likelihood of screwing up is low, but that's why I want my crew to be 100%, right?
Yeah, and people have to be reminded of that every day, right?
Yeah. And I want them to be honest with me if they're not okay,
Yeah, and
because
it's
I don't need
okay.
to put you on ropes.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to take a mental health day. It's okay to take a few hours off to deal with your shit. It's no big deal. I'd rather you do that than put yourself at risk, you know?
Yeah. And that's really good to hear that industry promotes mental and physical health, because
Yeah,
not every day is the same for us. We have ups and we have downs, and
exactly.
especially in your career, no, you don't want anybody feeling down going up and not only putting themselves at risk, but also putting others.
It's more about everyone else that's around that they're putting at risk.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I wanted to ask you, are you active on social media? And if you
Yeah.
are, where can our listeners find you and interact with you if they have any questions, or maybe they want some career guidance in rope access technician?
Yeah. On Facebook, my name is Alia Ophelia.
Okay.
And on Instagram, it's Alia0K.
And we'll put that up as links on our show
Awesome.
notes. On behalf of the O community, we want to personally thank you, Alia, and of course, Shivvon, for coming on the show and sharing your stories as rope access technicians. For those of you out there, if you like the show and found it informative, please give us a like and be sure to share it with others. Make sure to hit the subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes, and keep in touch with our community by following us on Instagram. That's #OnlyWomenEntrepreneurs. And if you need career consulting or business coaching, make sure you look me up on my website, OnlyWomenEntrepreneurs.com, and I would love to help everybody achieve either their career or their business dreams. Thank you so much, Alia, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, take care.